Good morning. Welcome back to Coffee and Colorful Conversation. Happy Wednesday. Today, I have a very special treat for everyone. This is something I've never done before on the coffee chat. As you know, I have a membership for hairdressers that's all things hair color. It's a true mentorship. It's not simply just a video of libraries that I send you into and just drop you off there and say, okay, go watch my videos and learn hair color. I am very much involved in the membership and taking the member through a journey into being a more confident colorist. So I have a special guest today. It is one of my members, Lindsay. She is super active in the membership. This is her second year. She's in what we call next level membership and Hair Color Secrets Insider. And we feel like we've known each other. We've been chatting quite a bit over the last year. She has become so much more confident in her color. And she reached out with a question, and I was running around yesterday. I had company this weekend and I wasn't, able to catch up on things. And she said, I have a quick question. And I said, hold that thought. Let's do it live. What I do with my members, whenever they have a challenge in their salon, a client coming in that they're really challenged, trying to figure out what to do, especially in a corrective situation, I say, I can always give you the answer. That's easy, right? I can say, do step one, do this, step two, do this, and you can do it. And you can feel proud of yourself and accomplished, but that situation is going to pop up again and you're going to freeze again. So I try to really draw the answer out of the person asking the question, and I'm there to guide them get to that answer. So we do these live in the membership. There's no set schedule that you have to show up for a certain time. It's when you need something, I'm here to guide you through, and it's called a hot seat. So I asked Lindsay if she would be comfortable doing her hot seat on the coffee chat because we've never done that. So she said yes, which is amazing. So we're going to do the hot seat in front of you. So if you're just jumping in, and you're like, what the heck is going on? You'll be asking questions in the comments. I can't see all the comments because I am on StreamYard. So if you comment and I don't call you by your name, I'm not being rude. It just says, Facebook user. It doesn't say your name. So feel free to ask questions, but I won't go back to the questions until I'm done with Lindsay. It gets a little intense. So we start talking like no one else is in the room. So I'm going to bring Lindsay on. Hello, beautiful.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. You look wonderful so early in the morning. I'm like, Lindsay, wait, I have to get my coffee. I have to turn my light on. Wait. I'm not ready yet.
You too. So excited.
Having the courage to do this in front of strangers because, as you know, no matter how far along you are in your journey, it's always like, oh, do I ask? Is that a silly question? And I think you know me well enough by now to know there's no silly questions and there's no off limits questions. So I'm happy that you're doing this live in front of everybody. So let's chat about your guest. I'm going to bring up the photo that you shared with me.
Okay.
This is Lindsay's client. The left is what she looks like now, right, Lindsay? Is that her current color?
Yeah, she was in about, I would say, 8 weeks ago for a glaze. So I just kind of touched up the glaze. So there should be more, there's going to be more new growth as well. So
Okay.
that'll with the picture, the inspiration picture that she picked. So she was dark, and then we started going a little bit lighter. I don't know if you remember the conversation that we had. The first time I did her hair, it was just a touch of color, and we ended up lifting her to like an 8 and using the 7 MB. Then she decided she wanted to go lighter, so then I had to bring her all the way up to like a 9, 10, and now she wants to go back dark again.
Of course she does. You did all the heavy lifting, and then it's like, oh, I actually do love my natural color with a
Yeah.
couple highlights, what you probably would have suggested from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So I pretty much figured I needed to fill her, but I was hoping a prayer that maybe I could just get away with it, like using like a little 8 WG and 7 NB and 6 NB. But I figured that you were going to say, no, you need to fill this. So,
So let me take her picture away and let's talk about that. So for those
okay.
of you watching, when you hear filling, it sounds like an old school term, but it's a necessary step in taking hair. When you're lifting hair, you're taking it through all of the levels of lift into this pale color. So when you go back, I mean, you can see how deep this color is that she is wanting, and you can see in the picture, you can see how porous and how much she needs moisture in that hair, because it's been through the war getting it to blonde. And it's nothing that you did, it's just getting hair that dark, that light, it's going to be super porous.
Right.
So we've all done, a glaze on someone when we thought we could cheat filling. And what happens? What happens when we put a glaze on and it's porous and it's, a lot darker and extreme from light hair? What do you think is the
Gonna
reason
get
that we fill?
disgusting. It's just gonna get muddy and it's not gonna look nice at all.
So
So
it's gonna really grab the tone of the gloss, and especially we tend to right now everybody's into these cool and ashy colors. So you think you can put a cool ashy color on a blonde, and you're like, I'm going darker, it's fine. But whatever base is in that glaze, if it's a blue or a violet or whatever it is,
right.
that's going to really show up on those porous pieces, and it's just going to look like rat fur brand. Like, it's not going to be a pretty shade. And then the secondary issue is hold and longevity. When the hair is compromised and it's missing all of that warmth, the warmth is the foundation to hold on to the deeper colors. So when you think about the levels of lift from dark to light, you go through all of that red, orange, gold, yellow, pale yellow, all that stuff. All of that has been stripped out. And to be that rich, I mean, that's a gorgeous, rich brown that you're looking at. It's not going to look like that if it's missing all of those foundations. And then, you had said, well, I thought I could just put it all in the bowl or the bottle or whatever. And there are plenty of people who, you could go to $1,000 class right now and they'll tell you, oh, just put it in the bowl. Right. It all goes in there. But my theory, and of course, I'm not a chemist and I never claimed to be, I just have done hair color for a really long time and I've seen the results. My theory is hair color is not as smart as we give it credit for. It doesn't have a brain. So the 8WG doesn't say, hey, I'm piecing out, I'm going to go fill those ends while you guys hold back and don't deposit.
Right.
So now your 8WG is mixed with, I think you said 6NB. So you're actually creating a 7, which is fine. But that end picture is not a 7. So it's basically like it wouldn't have been awful, that mixture that you said, but it wouldn't have been that target picture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it was warm enough. You had your WG and you had your NB. It was warm enough to be okay because you were only at a 7 and she's probably only at an 8.5 right now. So you weren't going too deep. It's that the end color is much deeper. And if you had gone right for the deep end color, then you're missing all that warmth in the foundation. So you were totally on the right track. It's just that's step 1. Then you need step 2.
Right.
And we talk about in the membership pre-glazing and double glazing and triple glazing. And it sounds like these fancy things, but it's basically old school, fill in what's missing, then go in with your end shade. And then it's going to when people say, oh, I hate, using demi because it doesn't last. And, because you've been with me over a year, like my whole head is demi. So if it wasn't lasting, I don't know what my hair would look like down here. I guess it would be all gray, down the ends, because this doesn't get refreshed when I do my retouch.
Yeah.
So that's all demi and it didn't go anywhere. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions of demi color, for sure. So let's talk about the what was I going to say? I'm looking for the word. I might want to say path, but we're talking the solution. what roadmap are we going by to do this?
So, the one thing I wanted to ask you too is, like, starting off, should I just use the porosity spray, or would you get her, like, have her whole head wet and then do it, or no, like, do it on wet hair to fill, or would you just do porosity spray?
In a perfect world, I would say do Malibu treatment, get any kind of minerals or muckety muck off there, because she has really long hair, so God only knows. So timing wise, we never live in a perfect world. So, her length hair, doing a Malibu treatment, that alone could be over an hour in the salon to do. So
Right.
ultimately, if she sent me this picture, I would ask her to come the day before and have all the prep stuff done and then come see you for the color. So I would have one of the shampoo assistants take care of all the prepping of her hair. I would have her come in, I would give her a shampoo, do a Malibu treatment, do a really intense moisture treatment, get some moisture back in there so that
Right.
it's not so, grabbing onto everything.
Yeah.
But in an imperfect world that most of us live in, I would definitely do the porosity spray over just wetting it, because when you wet the hair, and that's a whole other coffee chat. Let me move
Right.
her. I feel like I'm talking to a picture instead of you. Um, there's so many different theories. So many people prefer glazing on damp hair, and there are many reasons that you should do it on damp hair as far as a technique. But
Okay.
for longevity and hold and durability and all of those things, you really are best following Redken's directions to put it on dry hair. Like, I've seen a huge difference, especially in corrective work, when I'm applying to damp hair versus totally dry hair with a porosity spray. So how committed is she is more of my question, because she already flipped on you a couple times. So if she's not super committed, then I would probably say shampoo it, towel dry it really, really well, then spritz on the porosity spray, because she may be going back blonde in a month and
Well,
torture
that's
you for that.
what I'm a little like hesitant about, is going that dark. I know eventually as time goes on, it'll, wash out, but not really, like you said, if you're filling and doing the right steps. So that's my only concern, is like, oh God, if she comes in a month and says, you know what, I want to go light again, it's just frustrating, because then I feel like you're putting more damage on the hair. But that was the route I was thinking, is maybe wetting it, towel drying, then use a porosity spray. And then I was going to go in. I know we talked about it on the Facebook group, doing the like an ounce of the 8WG and an ounce of the 7G to fill, then wash out. Now, that was my other question. Should I dry it and then go in and weave out a couple pieces with the 6NB? And then you had said a cap full of 7C. Now, my question to you is, the 7C, is that just to add that little bit of punch of red?
The true milk chocolate. Hold on one second.
Okay.
So when people see that true milk chocolate,
Yes.
they're always like, how do you get that? Oops, wrong one. How do you get that chocolatey color? And we forget. I wish I could make this bigger. I can't make it any bigger, but it has this richness to it, right? That those highlights aren't like beige or tan. They're
Yeah.
like a really rich color. So the secret to the richness is that touch of
Yeah.
copper. We're not talking an ounce,
No,
an
just
ounce and an ounce. We're talking like a splash.
okay.
If you had a little dropper, like a liquid dropper, I would say a drop. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how small.
Okay.
But because you filled it with that warmth, you have that warm background already in there.
Right.
If you were to go in with just an N, it's going to try to neutralize or naturalize that warmth, and it's just going to make a normal, natural color. Like, it's not going to be rich or, have that punch. So
Okay.
that's where that little drop of copper is going to just kind of level out everything and make it lean towards warm, but not be copper, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. It's funny because she said, I just want to make an appointment for a glaze. And I was just like, oh, yeah, it's going to be easy peasy. And then all of a sudden, this whole thing came in, and I'm like, this is more than just a glaze. This is so much more. So now I have to call her and tell her, like, listen, this is not just going to be your average 20-minute glaze, wash, cut, blowout. This is going to be a bit more.
Well, let's stop there, because it can be, right?
Right.
If this is what happens, she showed you that photo. So when you show me that photo, I'm saying, okay, let's use some of the highlights that are there, because that's totally my thing. Like, don't just wipe everything away and then go back in and highlight.
No,
That's
yeah.
especially with what she's already been through to get light. So I never go that direction, but I'm like, what's there that we can keep? What do we like? What can we use?
Right.
So when you talked about her going back and forth and not being really sure, if she's okay, we talked about she's going to have a little bit more regrowth than the picture, and that's fine because her natural color is deep. So that's not
Yeah.
an issue at all. We don't need to lighten her at all. So you could very, very easily do a one-step glaze on her, 100%, and it would be beautiful. And it's almost what I would suggest that you do now that you just told me that she's a vacillator. She's a go back and forther.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So when you said, here's what she is, here's where she wants to go. And that's why I love to do these live hot seats, because first of all, if you reach out to me and you say, it's usually typed, right? I have a client, she's, 50% gray. She has da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, okay. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, 50% gray. And I'm visualizing this person. And I can tell you every single time when I say, you know what, do you have a photo? I'm not saying you, I'm saying anyone that asks a question. Do you have a photo? Because I just want to make sure. And then I get the photo and I'm like, okay, 10% gray,
Right.
not 50.
Right.
And she has existing color on there. You made it sound like she didn't have any color. And I'm like, that's a whole different answer. Yeah. So that's why I love these face-to-face with visuals. We can walk through, talk through, like I need to know everything. So now that you said she was this and then she wanted that, and I didn't realize that was that same girl. So that being said, your job is to have a conversation with her and basically put the light on her and say, you know yourself, right? This picture is gorgeous. And you may have loved it before we ever did any highlights on you, because it's so milk chocolate, dark chocolate. Like she was going for, the Pinterest worthy, everything light.
Right.
So have that conversation and say, I know you and you know you, and once the weather starts to warm up, you're going to want to be light again. Right. And your hair's been through a lot. You have, what is she, level 3?
She's not that dark. I would say she was more like she looks dark, but like a 5, maybe. I would say a 5. I mean,
so this isn't the Asian one.
No.
Okay. I was thinking she was Asian. I'm like, okay, she can't go back and forth. Okay. So level 5 is fine. So have that conversation and say, let's gradually get you deeper the way we gradually got you lighter. That's my favorite approach, because it's less stress on you with her changing her mind and then being like, oh, now I have to get through all this. So that being said, let's start over again and let's talk about how to do a gradual, easy peasy version without all of this, do this to step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Let's talk about like, what's the easiest way that we can give her that winterized, deeper look without going through a lot of work and keeping the integrity of her hair. What do you think would be your approach in that regard?
Staying, instead of going so dark, maybe going for like the 7MB, because then you wouldn't have, I don't know, would you have to still fill the hair?
What do you think?
I would still think that you would have to fill it just to make the
color. Remember what the rule is on filling.
Right. It's, what is it, 2 or 3? No, it's 3.
2. Oh, it's every 2 levels. So you would be fine. Okay. You would be fine. If that's your end goal, getting her to a 7 versus where she is now, that would be fine. So, but what other technique have you learned that we could make it a little bit interesting without doing a lot of heavy lifting as far as dimension?
Just doing like a bunch of lowlights, putting lowlights in, and then maybe, or just doing a low light formula and then painting in between.
What else? You're on the right track. Think simple. You're thinking too hard. Think simple.
I don't know. I would either go in or just go in with like a 7MB and maybe like doing the 7C and just putting it on top of what she has now. Do you think that would be too much?
No, it'd be fine. But I'm talking about just having it be just a tiny bit more dimensional, like not have all the blonde be one color and all her natural be one color? What's a third thing that you could do at the same time easily
Just
without taking everything?
keeping some of the blonde, or no?
Yeah, but how? How do you do that?
Conditioner in a foil. No.
You could do that, or you could shift the tone a little bit in the foil while you deepen everything else.
Okay. But even though she wants to still, I don't know if she wants to see any blonde. That's my hiccup.
Well, that's the conversation.
Okay. Because
You
she,
know,
like, this picture, she's like, I love this. This is this, you know, that I'm like, okay, you know, so what do you, if I just took it and did 7MB and set the cap full of 7C on what she has now, because all her underneath is still dark, would that be nice or would it be too much?
I don't think it would be too much at all. But she's not going to get. You have to get to the bottom of when she looks at that photograph.
What is she like?
Is she looking at the milk chocolate ribbons in there?
Yeah.
Because whatever you glaze her roots to ends, she's going to look like even shiny. It's going to be pretty, but it's going to be like even shiny everything color. It's not going to look like that Pinterest, pops of color, because you're taking away, you're going to have a tiny bit of dimension because she's pretty heavily highlighted.
Right.
So it's going to be like, light on dark anyway because of her natural. But if you wanted to take it up just one step, you could literally, when you look at where her placement is, the girl in the photograph.
Yeah, like
if you did, let me take away the picture so I can point to my head. So when you see her dimension, it's low and it's like in this area.
Yeah.
So literally popping in like 4 vertical foils.
Okay.
And you could put conditioner in there. Put 4 vertical foils on both sides, put in conditioner. Then you can do your glaze all the way through the rest of the hair. Leave it on for, the full amount. Take her to the sink, rinse everything, pull the foils out after the other color is rinsed, and then do a glaze on top of those foils that you left out for just like 10 minutes to shift that tone. So it's not like yellow noodles in a brown bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I did this, let's just say the 7MB and the Kappa 7C, and then rinse that out. Obviously, there's the foils with conditioner. What would you put to make that little pop? Would you do something a little bit, would you take it to like an 8, or no, you would still bring it down to a 7 for those pieces, even though the rest is 7MB?
I would probably not take the extra step and do it in conditioner because it's so close in color. You're only going from a 9 to a 7. So in those 8 foils, I would put whatever tone I wanted them to be in the foil, and I would just add a lot of clear so it doesn't, get too overtoned. So say, trying to picture 7. You said 7NB and 7C was in your glaze. So level 7. So it's still going to be like that tanny color. So I would probably do, I don't want visible warmth other than the milk chocolate.
She's pretty open. Like if I suggested something, she's pretty open to it. I just think that she's kind of tired of the light and now wants to go dark. The one big concern is she's getting married in August. So I'm like, are we going to be changing again? But hopefully not. Maybe she'll keep it dark and then we'll just keep glazing it. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I definitely have that conversation about whether she's going to be late for her wedding. So yeah, I would keep it at a level 8 inside the foil. I would probably just do, 8WG is such a safety shade. It's so pretty and it's rich on its own. Okay. So I would love, I wish I could see her in person to see how porous she is, but I would spray some porosity spray on there, do those 8 foils, probably with just 8WG in the bowl. I would mix a little bit of cornstarch to thicken it so it's not running all over the place, and use the thicker the gel processing solution.
Yep.
So pop those foils in, and I'm telling you, 4 and 4, not 84.
You're,
So
you're
strategically, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like ribbons. Boom, 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 boom. So that's going to be real piecey down through here because she has nice long hair. 4 on this side to mimic, make sure you line them up so it doesn't look random. So you want to go boom, 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 4. If she wants a money piece, make that number 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Make it a nice textural weave.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Would I be doing, obviously not in the front piece, but like here and back, like the SpongeBob, those that thick, or would
SpongeBob? But remember, this isn't a low light, so you can make it the front piece because you want her to have that brightness in the front. So you're not really doing a low light. Does that make sense? You're just like tweaking the tone in her already light pieces.
Okay.
So definitely SpongeBob weave and start with that. Grab that front money piece, make that the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop them in quick. Put the glaze in a bottle, not a bowl and brush where you're going to stand there and wipe it. It just whoosh, everything else, just squirt, squirt, squirt. Leave from here to the end, that very last couple inches that's really porous because it's been around for a long time.
Okay.
You want to leave that out for the first couple, when you're putting it everywhere else, just take it down to like here. Okay. Saturate everything, set your timer for 10 minutes. When 10 minutes goes up, grab your the rest of your color, bring it through everything while the foils are still in. So 20 minutes total. Yep. Take her to the sink and then just make sure that you rinse all of the
color
demi off while the foils are in so you don't end up covering up the foils, and then you're done. I mean, it's easy. So that's the consultation for this woman is going to take you longer than the actual
doing
strategy and doing it, because you really need to know about that wedding. She cannot keep going back and forth because right now she's pretty compromised. Anything further, lightning, when you keep going back and forth. Lindsay and I talked when we first jumped on here about her client who is Asian, and she had highlights and then got them glazed over and then wanted them light again. And we talked about the what lies beneath conversation that we did in the most recent boot camp, where we have to know what's under there because the blonde was underneath that glaze. And then if we're letting the lightener sit on those mids and ends, as long as the new regrowth where she has the Asian, level 2, 3 hair, it's going to snap off those ends because the lightener is underneath. So we really have to spend much more time consulting versus grabbing for tubes and praying. And I know you don't pray anymore. You always ask, and you're smart to ask and make sure. But you've come so far with that. Like you only have to ask me once every 3 months versus every single time. I'm afraid, I'm nervous. What do I do? Because it's in our own head. We overthink.
I just wish I could wrap you up and bring you over here and keep you forever and have you with me.
I told you need to come here to Florida. You can have me. I'm not coming to the cold in New York ever again.
I know. Well, I started a book of like questions for you. So
awesome.
When I get a chance to get out and see you, I will just bring that and we'll just have a question party.
I'm excited for your book because that should be a book. Like your question book should be turned into a book because every single person watching this right now most likely has or does have that same question right now.
Right.
And that's the beauty of color. I answered someone in the group the other day and I gave an answer of what I would do. And then somebody said, well, what if I did this? And I said, it would be fine because that's the beauty of hair color. It's not an exact science. And we are fortunate that most clients really don't know the difference between good and great color. They just know whether we turn them an off color, like a muddy, murky yuck, they know. And they know too yellow, too blonde, too orange. Other than that, they're really not. Like I've seen it a million times where they're like, oh my gosh, my colorist, I was buying furniture and this woman's color was awful. Her hair was so dried out. Her blonde was like that, ready to snap off frosting from 1978. And she was and I said, since I've moved here, I've had such a hard time finding somebody to do my color. And that's what I do for a living. So I'm like really a pain in the butt. And, people cringe when I tell them what I do when I sit in their chair. And She's like, oh, you have to go see my girl. I'm like, oh yeah, definitely give me her number. I'm thinking so that I don't go. But the fact of the matter is she felt great and she loves her connection with her colorist. So we talk, as you know, in the membership about how it's 80% personality and emotional intelligence and how you make that client feel. And only 20% of it is really about their color.
Yeah.
They come in with a whole lot of baggage with them, and we have to sift through the baggage and the mindset things to get to the bottom of what they actually want with their hair. Half the time, they don't even want to talk about their hair. They want to talk about their husband and their rotten kids did this, and this one did that, and their coworker did this. And we are part psychologists, but I think we let them direct where the conversation goes, and we don't direct it back to the hair enough, in my opinion. I think that if we took charge and said, I'm going to, I have plenty of time to listen to what's going on in your life and I'm excited to catch up, but let's spend the first 15 minutes talking about how your hair is going for you so that I can map out a plan. And while you're telling me all the social stuff, I can enjoy the conversation because I'm not having to think about what I'm doing while I'm doing your hair.
No, I agree 100% with that. I think a lot of times you kind of get caught up or get nervous. Sometimes I get nervous and then I'm just like, just talking away and then thinking in my head, what am I going to do? And as I'm measuring, I'm like, oh, just give me 1 second. And I'm like, oh my God, Lindsay, it's true. Just taking the time with the client and saying, okay, we're just going to kind of talk about your hair first. Then that'll allow you to give you the time to talk to them about whatever it is that they want to talk about. And sometimes.
And I love that you said take a minute because we have an open hair color dispensary, like right behind the client. I'm using myself as a model, and then I look like Phyllis Tiller. Right behind us when we're doing color is a wall of the most amount of color you've ever seen in a salon because we were a color special salon. We still are, but I'm just not there. So there was many, many choices. And for the client, they loved seeing that it was more than just us popping open a L'Oreal box like they would in the drugstore and putting one thing in a bowl and putting it on. So there's a lot of good reasons to do an open concept and show them that there's more to it than throwing something in a bowl. The negative is there's nowhere to gather your thoughts. They're yapping the whole time.
Yeah.
Whenever I was training a new colorist, they would be trying to listen to the client's thing and they're measuring and they're trying to measure. And I said, this is where you have to take charge and say to the client, can you excuse me for 1 minute? I want to really concentrate when I'm measuring your color because I want it to be absolutely perfect. I'm going to be with you in a second. Hold that thought. And they're happy to shut up because they don't want you mixing the copper in there by accident when you're reaching for the gold and all of that.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get, we're so doting on the client and so making it about them that we're actually making it a less than visit because we're letting them guide us to what they think that it should be and not what we think that it should be. And that really changed things for anyone that I've ever trained. It really clicked when they started to be confident in their own self to say, I'm going to excuse myself and I have to go think about what I'm mixing back there. So excuse me 1 minute, I'm going to stop chatting. And once I get going on your head, we can start that conversation. And they don't get offended. You don't say, shh, don't shush them. I hate that. Oh, it's so demoralizing.
Even with cooking, I have to have exact things.
Me too.
Focus. And so that's how I am with the color. And that's what I've been doing lately. It's just oh, just give me a quick second. I'm just going to mix everything. And then we can talk all about it because I can't wait to hear about X, Y, and Z. And so that's been going pretty good because I feel like you have to be fully focused when you're doing that because it is easy to make a mistake and you need to make sure that you're picking up the right volume or whatever it may be, and you don't want to mess that up. Because then you'll be.
I can't tell you how many times I've put clear Shades EQ, the clear bottle, and the processing solution. In my opinion, one should be black, one should be they should not be the same color bottle.
I check it.
I look at the bottle and I'm like, that doesn't look right. You can tell when you've been using it for a while, and I'm like, something's not right. And I'm like, oh, that's what I did. I put clear instead of processing solution. So better to find out before I put it on the head and process it for 20 minutes and it does nothing.
Yes.
But it's annoying because I'm talking and we have a drawer with all of our developers and I'm I'm the type that puts them exactly where they belong, where I can not look and reach. And I know that bottle 1 is this and bottle 2 is that. But
Right.
all it takes is a brand new assistant to just jumble all those bottles together. And then I'm like, oh, great, mistake.
I started
So
like colored tape and I
smart.
around the processing solution because I made a mistake in the past. So
It's
yeah.
smart, very smart. Yeah. It's
Okay.
crazy that they're so similar.
I
And
know.
now throw in the gel to confuse us even more because they're Mary, I'm looking at the comments now.
Oh, okay.
Mary Beth said, forgive my ignorance, but I'm stuck in the vertical foil on the sides. I can't visualize how I would do that. All right, let me grab some foil and make myself a guinea pig. So Mary Beth, a traditional foil, we tend to go this way. We're taught in beauty school to go horizontal, which I don't like that either. I'm a either diagonal or vertical foiler. The only time I go horizontal is if I am doing a gray transition where I want the client to embrace their gray and I want to get rid of everything. That's when I go horizontal and I do lots and lots of foils horizontally because horizontal creates a sheet of color versus dimension. So Lindsay's photo was very ribbony, for lack of a better word. So you see how it spills. She has these pieces that come down and it's ribbons of a milk chocolate mixed in with the dark chocolate. So if Lindsay were to do a horizontal foil, it's going to create like one big sheet of that color, which is fine. It would just be a lighter veil going over top. But when I see that, I see a ribbon. So to create a ribbon, you want to go straight up and down this way. So this is going to be good because the computer, everything is opposite of what I'm looking at. It's not like looking in a mirror. So you want to, I should just grab a mirror. It'd be easier. So let's just grab this since I already grabbed it. So straight out from the head, straight up and down this way. This way. So you want to put your foil. Oh my gosh. Like that. Straight up and down like that versus like this or this. So that's all. Nothing too complicated. It's just you're doing it vertically so that it's a big ribbon versus a sheet. Don't be sorry. Why are you sorry? That's a great question. I bet you 38 other people have the question on here right now.
Yeah.
And this is Renee. Renee always has Nebo, and everybody calls her Nebo, but this is Renee Allen. She's mentioned Kenra porosity spray in the past. Yes. So my go-to is Kenra. That doesn't mean you have to use that. I am what they call a brand-free educator. So I have my favorites. Me, the colorist, has my favorites, but I don't work for Kenra. I don't make money when you buy this. This just happens to be what I use. And the reason I like it is this trigger. So like Lindsay said, she has a lot of hair. If she wanted to skip shampooing her first and just put a simple glaze all over rather than, do a prayer and hope that it doesn't take unevenly because of the different levels of porosity. This smells so good too. I can smell it. So she could just either mist it with a little bit of water or not and spray this on and just brush it through the hair evenly. And then it's going to fill in all those holes of uneven porosity and just take the color more evenly. Looking to see.
What's funny is I tried to get that after you talked about it because I use Goldwell and I like their porosity spray, but they were closed. So I went to go get the Kenra and my Cosmoprof is empty.
Ours too.
Anything. And I'm like, how are you guys surviving? I mean, Goldwell is okay. And then we have another A&A, which is like Redken and Moroccan oil and all that. And they're okay too. But the Cosmoprof is like dead.
Did
So
you
I'm
see
like,
the meme that Sandy put in our group
yes,
about
yes,
traveling on a boat, going out to a ship to get 6N and 20 Vine?
yes.
Apparently, developer is very
Oh,
short right
yeah.
now. It's hard to get 20 Vine developer. Someone gave me the heads up. One of our members that lives in PA had told Bryn to stock up on developer, so she's fine because she got the heads up. But I wouldn't think that that's something that you had to stock up on. So that's crazy.
No, I have one thing I wanted to say about as far as Goldwell, they just reformulated both of their lighteners, and I'm like about it. I'm not really a huge
Don't
fan.
you hate when they mess with, like, people love
Yes,
something and then they mess with it?
and they messed with both of them. They had one that was like a little bit gentler for more compromised hair, and then they had one that was great. And now people are complaining that it is bleeding. Like if you don't measure exact, you will have bleeding. But
Mm.
sometimes what bothers me is you have to use the 35 mLs, the whole scoop. What if you're not using a whole scoop and you just need to do just a couple foils? They're not giving you the exact measurements for only just the full
Well,
scoop.
that's where we love Google and we love Siri and all that.
Yeah.
Like I would go
Yeah.
in and type mLs to grams. Let's do
Yes.
it right now. I'll do it on another browser. So
Which
what does it say? 30 mLs?
I think it's 35 mLs, which is the scoop. I think that
35
measures out the scoop.
ml to grams.
I can't actually. Let me grab it so then I don't.
So 35 mLs is 1 gram. So if you use a scale, I don't know if the scale measures half a gram, does it? Let me grab my
That mine doesn't. This is. Oh, I grabbed the wrong thing. Shoot. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so it's 35 mLs of lotion to 1 scoop.
So it doesn't tell you what the scoop
And-
is, you're saying.
Now, let me just see here. Oh, okay. You know what? 1 scoop is 25 grams. So 35 mLs and 25 grams of the lightener.
Oh, so it's like a weird, it's not equal.
It's not even both mLs. One's ml, one's grams. How
Yeah,
weird
that's a
is
science
that?
experiment. You'll have to sit down and type that in and try to figure that out because that is annoying to have to
But
use.
could you recommend?
Maybe you could break it down to tablespoons instead of like kind of see what that is and then how many tablespoons it is.
Because I'm more
Um,
of a by the feel of everything.
Me too.
But reading this, all these people complaining about it, I would rather not experience that. So I'm a little nervous about it. But would you recommend? What would be your recommendation as far as lightener that's like one of your favorites, like a go-to that you would just grab if you were in a pinch or that you just love?
My most predictable, gentle, like everything for a normal average head. I have to preface with not
Okay.
taking Asian hair to your
Okay.
hair.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't even attempt it with it. I always liked Redken up to 7. I don't know what about it is the up to 7 part. Apparently, it says it only goes so far and then it doesn't keep trying to lighten. So, like, if I have someone who has gray in their hair and they're like a level 6 naturally and they're just trying to blend gray, and I don't want it to go all the way to level 180.
Yes.
I just want to like butter it up and get a little bit of lightening, but I know that hair color isn't going to get them light enough. That is my go-to. It creates this like beautiful, believable vanilla. It leaves tone in the hair. It doesn't totally, take it out flat out white. That's that go-to. And then I started using the Flash Lift with Bonder in it because these Australian colorists that I'm now obsessed with were using it, and they were using it on the darker heads that I just talked about and taking them all the way. So I was like, okay, I'll start using that. But I have to say, it dries out super quick. I have to constantly be blending, remixing, all of that. It does lighten much further than the up to 7 because it's designed to do that versus the up to 7. But I honestly, I think Wella Blondor is the most versatile lightener because you can control the amount of lift. You can push it and pull back and all that stuff. And it's easy to mix. And I do it by texture and consistency versus measuring. I got suckered into this. Shame on me for falling for Instagram bullshit.
That would be me too. Don't worry, you're not alone.
So every person on the page was like that beautiful white. Oh my God. So
yes,
platinum.
the charcoal.
And I'm like, I have to try
like
this.
it?
Like, there's no way no, it didn't do anything. I don't know if it's because it wasn't human hair. It was human hair, but it was a swatch.
Yeah.
And I left it on literally for 45 minutes, and I don't have the result in front of me, but it literally took the hair from like here to here. Like literally didn't even go anywhere near blonde. So I do need to be fair. I do need to try it on a human, but I talked to my friend who I always talk about in the membership, who like him and I try everything. And he was he said, I think everybody edits their photos because he had the same result. Like their developer is pigmented, which was kind of cool. This comes out like really purple. So I'm like, oh, well, it makes sense. But then my chemistry head says, no, it doesn't make sense because bleach eats through everything. So even if the developer was pigmented, it wouldn't do anything to the hair.
Well, that's what I didn't understand either, because I don't like the fact that when it's in a foil and it's the charcoal, the dark color, how can you really see the true color that it's coming up unless you wipe it off? And when I asked the girl in the beauty supply store, she said, oh, you just kind of let it go and you kind of look for it and see, and pretty much it'll lift you where you want to go. And I'm like, okay.
Not a good answer.
I don't know. Sure. Perfect. All right. Awesome.
So yeah, I'll be interested to see when you talk to her what direction she goes in, but make sure, like, this is where somebody posted something the other day and they said, true or false, I think it was behind the chair, true or false, if a client seems difficult during the consultation, it's just not a good fit, don't proceed. And everybody was like, yes, kick her out. Da, da, da. Like everybody was so dramatic. And I said, not necessarily true. For me, if after 15 minutes, she still looks uncomfortable and is still asking me the same question she asked me in the beginning of the consultation, then it's not a good fit because the trust did not increase over time and it's never happening. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between they're uptight and just really difficult, and they really are just fearful and don't understand. So if they come around in the 15 minutes, I'm perfectly happy to proceed. But if they're rubbernecking and still showing me pictures and the pictures are starting to be completely opposite of the picture in the beginning of the conversation, then it's not happening.
Yeah. But it's good that
you have a relationship with her, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, no, she's easy. The whole of the going back and forth, I think that's the hardest thing for any client. That is just a little bit frustrating because obviously you want the integrity to be perfect, and you want her hair to look beautiful because your name is on her head or his head, whatever, so you want it to be perfect. And I always want everything to be perfect. And my mom constantly tells me, she's like, you're crazy. You need to stop like obsessing about everyone that you do and looking at their head and taking a million pictures and trying to pick out what you could do better. And I'm like,
that's not crazy. That's passion. That's perfectly awesome that you care enough to keep bettering your best. You're not looking at Instagram saying, I need to be her. You're saying, I want to be the best Lindsay that I can be. And I love that. And then to take it a step further in your consultation, this is an example of when to use that written agreement where you say, you've already been lifted to this. We've already been that. Today we're talking about this. And you have been advised that going back to lighter blonde is not advisable within, a time frame, like letting her know, I am not taking you back to blonde if you change your mind.
Right.
So putting all of that in writing is definitely worth the extra step with these vacillators that go back and forth because they're enough to make us crazy.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, so you've got this either way, either doing the SpongeBob with the 8WG and glazing everything down, or the original thing we talked about, foiling, filling, and reglazing.
Yeah.
That's the Mac Daddy ultimate for the photograph, but she has to be 100% clear that she's not trying to be a blonde bride because I wouldn't go there if she is.
One other question. If we did either service, how would you charge for that? Like, would you... If it was the Big Daddy, would you charge because you're putting the foils in and everything else, would it be like almost like a partial? I know you hate doing partial and this and that, but like what price point? Because the filling, how much do you charge for filling? I don't even.
Usually for filling, I'll do my price for if I do a glaze during a retouch. So I
Oh,
don't do a full touch-up price, but I do the glaze price. So
okay.
say my retouch is 90 and my glaze is 45, I would fill 45.
Okay.
Then I would do whatever the amount of highlight. Like if you're just doing 8 foils, that's
Yeah.
not, any big deal. But
Right.
the foil price and then another for the full glaze over top, that's when I would do a retouch price because she has really long hair and she's going to need a lot of
Yeah.
product. So
Okay.
I would do a full touch up for that. Julie's saying, make sure you post pics when you're done. Yes, all the members are waiting patiently for the after. Pressure's on, Lindsay.
Oh my God.
No,
No, thank
not
you
at all.
so much. You're so amazing, Aline. I can't. I feel like you were just such a blessing, and I don't know what I would do without you. And my whole fuel of being a hairstylist and the fire like disappeared, and now it's like back in full force. And I just feel so blessed that I found you. I
Aw.
can't. I thank God every day. Seriously, you're such a blessing, and you're even in all the chats and different things, how so many people say so many wonderful things about you. You need to be all over everything. Everybody needs a piece of you because you're just such an awesome, you're just amazing colors, amazing everything, amazing person. And I just love you, and I cannot thank you enough for every single thing you've ever done for me, even though I've never met you, but I feel so
I know. I feel like we're we're girlfriends. We talk all the. I
yeah.
was talking to you, trying not to electrocute myself in the pool the one day with my earbud in.
Yes.
So thank you so much, and I appreciate all your kind words. That
Thank
really
you.
means a lot to me because sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself, right, when I'm talking into these chats. So thank you for joining me. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you got something out of this. I know that our one friend is going to be vertical foiling her way through the day, Mary Beth Milton. I hope you do your vertical foils. So that was a good tip. So thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
I will
you
see
so
you
much.
all next week. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.